لساني يفقه قولي. قال الله في محكم كتابه: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن فيه ورزق ربك خير وأبقى. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Recite aloud salat, please. If we can have the volume reduced, I think it's too loud. I think someone is there, right? Recite another salawat, please. As we're going through the passages of the Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, the noble traits by Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam, we are in the 10 qualities, 10 asks and 10 requests and du'as that Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam is teaching us to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And through these 10 asks and 10 du'as and requests, inshallah, the salvation for this dunya, this world, and also the hereafter will be guaranteed. And we also talked about the importance of dua when it comes to such requests, such needs, that perhaps for the most part, not all of them, there are that du'as that we tend to ask, but there are also du'as that we tend to not ask. We tend to neglect and tend to overlook. So Imam Zainul Abidin is making us aware of this, that for such needs, you need to go to Allah Azza wa Jal and ask from Him. So inshallah, we're going to continue again 3 more du'as or requests we'll go over, and then the rest inshallah for the following night. He alayhi salam said, وَأَغْنِنِي وَأَوْسِعْ عَلَيَّ فِي رِزْقِكَ. Enrich me, coming from ghina. Ghina is only belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That ultimate wealth that brings about being needless to anything. That's ghina. When I'm needless to anything, that means I have ghina, meaning I'm ghani in another word. I'm ghani, meaning I'm enriched, I'm wealthy enough that I'm needless to anything. And subhanAllah, this is not about how much money I have or how much social status I have. And in fact, if I'm not enriched, I can have many things. But those things can be not enough. You see, there is actually a tradition attributed to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, which they're saying that if you have enough, it's enough for you. You can pay your rent, you can pay your bills, and then perhaps you can sometimes, some month you can save, some month you cannot save. If this is not enough for you inside, if you don't have that wealth within you, within your nafs, and you feel that there's more you need, even if you gain more, you will still have the same feeling. So that feeling is not going to go away as a result of having a bigger paycheck. It's not going to do that. It's not going to happen. That feeling of needlessness, that I'm okay and I have qina'at, in another word, I'm modest, I'm zuhd, I'm detached from this dunya, it's not about how much money I have. There's a story that there are 2 arif, and this is somewhat funny story. There are 2 arif. These 2 arif, they wanted to do zuhd. They were practicing zuhd, meaning detaching themselves from the luxury of this dunya, and then occupying themselves with what? With worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's being arif. These 2 arif, they wanted to go for a trip together, road trip. Not like a driving road trip at the time, perhaps horse or camel. One of these arif was somebody who didn't have anything. The other arif was a wealthy man. So this poor arif, they went to his friend's house, which is a wealthy man, Both of them are Arif. They didn't know each other much. This is their first time going for a trip together. This poor man, poor Arif, went to the house of this wealthy Arif. As soon as he entered to the house, he saw that this man has a palace. So he started judging that man, judging that Arif. He started thinking, what type of Arif you are? Huh? What type of Arif you are? In another, what type of alim you are? You have a palace, you have a mansion. How can you claim that you detach yourself from the luxury of this dunya while you're actually into the luxury of this dunya and this world? So he was thinking about this. They started the trip. Halfway through, this poor Arif stopped all of a sudden. He said, we have to go back. The wealthy Arif asked him, what happened? Why we have to go back? No, we have to go back. I left something in your house, and that's everything that I have. Without that, I cannot continue that trip. The wealthy Arif asked him, what is this? What is this that you eagerly want to go back, that if you don't have this, you cannot continue this trip in your life? He said, I have one backpack, and that's all I have. That's all I have. I'm Arif, right? I'm Zahid, I'm detaching myself. All I have is what? A backpack. We have to go back. And that's where the wealthy Arif taught him a lesson. He said, look, you judged me. If they bring a news that my palace is burned on fire, with fire, I'm not going to concern myself the way you concern yourself. It's not about how much money I have. It's about my feeling. It's about that insight, right? That desire, that motive, that drive. How much I have the drive to protect and to save for the luxury of this dunya. Quran, when describing zuhd, he said that zuhd is when someone receives a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's not going to have and be in the state of farah. Farah means excitement. I get something, and subhanAllah, many of us, we have this. When we gain something from this dunya, we get excited. That means zuhd is lacking. That means I still have attachment to this dunya. It's okay to be happy, by the way. Of course, you know, when I gain something, I get happy. That's for sure. But excitement is something else. Farah is something else. And then ayah continues saying that if the same people, if they lose something, they go in the state of what? Depression. You see? Amirul Mu'mineen, in describing the pious ones in Nahj al-Balagha, Khutbatul Hammam, famous one, he says, pious ones are those whom when they are in the state of hardship or when they're in the state of ease, they're equal. They're the same people. They're the same people. These fluctuation of life events are not going to have impact on the way they behave, they approach things. Because life events is going to happen, all sorts of ups and downs. Pious ones, they have a level of maturity that these fluctuation is not going to have impact on the way they are. So, وَأَغْنِنِي, it's a very profound dua. This is just وَأَغْنِنِي ya Allah. Enrich me. Truly, I want that true wealth. That a very small fraction of this enrichment and wealth is about the money that I gain, the social status that I gain, which I have to try my best, right, to work. I have to have saving and so on. But it is more than that, as we said. It's more about how I perceive my wealth, how I perceive what I have. And my last point on this, brothers and sisters, is look, part of this, which continuing Imam asking again about rizq and sustenance, that one of the problem that being ungrateful causes is that we overlook what we have already. So the core definition of shukr and gratitude, and this is a whole another discussion. It's a beautiful, beautiful, please, let's reflect on gratitude and shukr. We need to reflect that. It can bring many, many positive impacts in our lives and effects. That for those of us, anytime we feel down, and if that feeling down is consistent, because sometimes it's okay, but if that feeling down is consistent to a point that I start overlooking what I have, what Allah Azza wa Jal has given me, that means there's no, what? Gratitude. There's no shukr there. The first step of shukr is to be able to see what I have. To be able to see what I have. And this is even when it comes to my parenting, I do this a lot. When I judge my parents, my siblings, I do this. My spouse, I do this. Usually I see they lack in others. Those people who are around me mostly. Because I see them more often, so I start overlooking what I already have. And sometimes the only communication becomes when I have criticism. When I want to critique others, that's the only basically form of communication that I have. Don't do this or do this, right? Why you don't do that? Why you don't do, these are basically, if that's the only communication that I have with these people around me, that means there's a lack of gratitude. I cannot see good in people around me. So actually give me that feeling, that wealth, that enrichment, that I see best in things that I have, whether those things are people or other provisions. وَأَوْسِعْ عَلَيَّ فِي رِزْقِكَ, and expand your provision and rizq and sustenance for me. Expand it. وَلَا تَفْتِنِّي بِالنَّظَرِ, and do not let my eyes wander to the point that causing me temptation when I look at people's lives. وَلَا تَفْتِنِّي بِالنَّظَرِ. Basically, the rough translation is this: do not test me with looking. But what that means is, do not test me when my eyes start wandering around and looking at people's lives to a point that I start wishing other people's lives, other people's provisions. Allah Azza wa Jal gives certain things to me when He doesn't give certain things the same thing to others, and vice versa. So if I start looking at people's lives, I start, as we said last night, I start doing things that others are supposed to do and forget what I'm supposed to do. I look at people's life, they are so-and-so profession, and I think that my child should go in the same profession so he can have, I didn't have, he can have this mansion, for instance. Well, I don't know, maybe my child goes to the same field, maybe, let's say, base case scenario, maybe he gets the same mansion, maybe he gets the same palace, the same job. But can I guarantee that my child is going to be happy in the future? I can have the biggest mansion, but inside, horrible. So what's the point of that? Maybe my child can be successful in other fields. We never know. And myself also. And this is basically for those of us who are fathers or mothers. So Quran is beautiful, subhanAllah. The ayah that I recited, he said, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولا تمدن عينيك إلى ما متعنا به أزواجا منهم زهرة الحياة الدنيا, and do not stretch your eyes, meaning do not look around to that thing which we have given parties of them to enjoy. So we give different things to different parties, to different nations, to different even faith, to different nations. We give different things to them. So Quran is saying, obviously to Muslims at the time and to us also, that when you look at, say, disbelievers or non-Muslims, don't look at people's lives. Don't stretch your eyes to see what they have and then say, I don't have this. Don't do that. This is the splendor of the life of the world, that we may try them in it. So these are all wealth, yes, splendor. These are luxuries of this dunya. We give to different nations and we test them with these splendor of life, with these luxuries of life. And the provisions of your Lord is better and more lasting. Look at what you have. Look at what you have. SubhanAllah, many nations, many communities, they look at other people's lives, other communities' lives, other societies' life, other nations' life. They start doing the same thing. They think, if I do the same thing, I'm going to get the same, say, provisions. And how many talents are lost in between? I want to mimic other people's lives. Quran is saying that. How many lives, how many potentials that you have already, you want to copy others, and you overlook the potentials that we have at the moment. And this is completely against and the opposite of the idea and the concept of gratitude and shukr. Gratitude is, yes, I can learn from others. Yeah, if there is a hikmah, there is wisdom, I have to gain knowledge, I have to try my best to be the best. But try to look and stretch our eyes to other people's lives, to other communities' life, to other societies' life, nations' life, that's where the problem arises. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in a tradition, recite aloud salat, please. He said, من اتبع بصره ما في أيدي الناس طال همه ولم يشفى غيظه. Whoever follows with his eyes what is in the hands of others, his grief will be prolonged. You can go do some research on the impact of Instagram, and they talk about this. That people project the best of their lives, the best time of their lives, the best room of their house, the most clean day of their life. When I look at people's lives, my despair, my regret, my depression, my sadness is prolonged. And if I continue that, I will be entering to the state of kufr in a Quranic sense, which is the opposite of shukr, that I cannot see things that I have. These eyes are extremely powerful. Quran says, وَلَا تَخْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. That indeed, ears, listening, والبصر, eyes, sights, and heart, all three of them will be responsible in the day of resurrection, because these are very powerful, very powerful. Directly connects to our heart. Looking at things. I communicate with my heart through these things, these so-called senses. So do not look at other people's life. Whoever does, his grief will be prolonged, and his anger will never be soothed. His anger of himself, of his life. Sometimes we blame others, right? If I would do this, I would have the same thing. If my father would do this, I would have all sorts of anger. Never will be soothed, Rasulullah, according to this tradition, is saying. If I start looking at people's life, that's going to happen. I will end with this, that we'll continue that, inshallah, discussion on the idea of izzah, because that's the next dua that Imam is asking. وَأَعِزِّنِي, right? وَأَعِزِّنِي, and the rest, inshallah, we'll recite tomorrow. وَأَعِزِّنِي, Ya Allah, dignify me. You and I, all of us, and every human being, they always want to seek power. might, power, influence. These are the manifestation of dignity. So if I'm a dignified brother or sister, I will automatically will have influence over others. Right? So dignity is a very powerful trait or provision or sustenance. So in order to do that, what do? We gain wealth. We try our best to gain social status. We come to center. We want to have dignity, right? What do we do to gain dignity? What do we do? Most of the things that we do are superficial. These are not dignity. These are not dignity. I do things to gain dignity. That's superficial. That's not dignity. What is the real dignity? Quran says. Quran says, "Man kana yuridu al-izzah." Whoever seeks. Is there anybody who doesn't want dignity? We should have. We should seek dignity. We should be dignified human being. That's a command. We should not do things, we should not belittle ourselves to a point that we lose our dignity. That means we should gain dignity. But how we should do that? Quran is saying, whoever wants and seeks dignity, فَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ جَمِيعًا. Then all dignity, all types of dignity belongs to Allah Azza wa Jalla. All types of dignity. You see, not, sometimes we think dignity only in Islamic center setting, dignity only in certain setting. No. Quran is saying all types of dignity belongs to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Whatever dignity you want, Allah Azza wa Jalla. And then you do things. But have this in your mind. Whatever you do, I do seek dignity through Allah Azza wa Jalla, not through other superficial acts that sometimes we get involved with. Part of that is protection even. That when we look at the idea of protection and safety and security, where we should seek protection? Isn't it only through Allah Azza wa Jal? How can I seek protection? How can I seek dignity and might and power? We have tradition attributed to Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam that whoever humiliate himself or herself before Allah Azza wa Jal, that means listening and obeying to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fulfilling his or her responsibility, Allah will grant them what? Dignity. Allah will grant them security. Seek all these things from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And my last message, brothers and sisters, is about the genocide that is taking place in Palestine. Again, the enemy, the Israeli regime, this ruthless machine of war, is unleashing its truly worst type of human traits against Palestinians. SubhanAllah, the videos that are coming out is horrible. It's hard to watch. And perhaps many of us, we are numb to this. As soon as we see this, we scroll down. We don't want to watch it anymore. It's not like at the beginning of this genocide. Now it's just, passing it. Our brothers and sisters in Gaza are being bombed. They're just like our brothers and sisters. Not only our brothers and sisters, they're just like us, our soul. Because that's actually the tradition is saying, that you're like a body, beyond brothers and sisters. If one part of this body aches, the other part of body should feel the pain. If we don't feel the pain, that's a problem. So beyond that, prayer, supplication before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Beyond that, participation in protest is important. For so long they said that Al-Quds Day is not effective for many days, for perhaps years. They had this question that whether this is effective or not. The question is, if this is not effective, why they're trying so hard to stop these protests? Right? If that's the case, this awareness, this raising awareness is putting fear in the heart of oppressors. I think I mentioned this a few nights ago, that Americans need to be informed. Americans are good people, citizens of this country. Like all countries, people are in nature are good. It's about being informed. It's about raising awareness. There are amongst all nations, there are bad people, there are good people. But it is the job of those who know to inform those who doesn't and who are not aware. And one of the best form is to go out from our centers, to go out to the street, or as much as we can, obviously. Every year the strategy could be different. That's a whole another topic that we could have. But essentially the Quds Day is a day established by Imam al-Khomeini rahmatullah alayhi. May Allah bless his soul. And then continuing all the way till today, that today we see even non-Muslims attending, sometimes in some cities, fortunately or unfortunately. The amount of non-Muslims who are attending to Al-Quds Day is more than Muslims. Fortunately or unfortunately. Fortunately is for the message of Al-Quds Day, which is spreading across different religion. Unfortunately for those who are following the maktab of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, who are not attending, and those who can. So we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our brothers and sisters in Palestine with liberation. We pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to bless our brothers and sisters in Palestine with safety and protection. We pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to protect our brothers and sisters in Yemen. We pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to protect our brothers and sisters in Lebanon, in Gaza, in Parachar, Pakistan, in Syria, in Afghanistan, in Iran, in Pakistan, in Kashmir, India, and all elsewhere, everywhere that our brothers and sisters are facing oppression. We pray to Allah Azza wa Jal for their victory, for their protection, for their safety. We pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive us in the remaining days and nights of Ramadan. We pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to bless us with dignity. We pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to bless us with wisdom, so inshallah we can understand the message of Quran, we can recite the verses of the Quran, understand the verses of the Quran, and apply the verses of the Quran in our lives. We pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to beautify our akhlaq with the akhlaq of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to hasten the appearance of our Master Imam al-Mahdi ajjalallahu ta'ala farjuhu sharif, and make us a community that is deserving for the thuhur and the appearance of our beloved Imam al-Mahdi ajjalallahu ta'ala farjuhu sharif. Wassalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة والجان. الأمان من فتن الزمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك.